So, next.
And I'm Krysta Muscat. I'm the head of recruitment for Betting Connections in Malta.
So when I met you first, Krysta, you were not Muscat, you were Vella.
I was. No, yes, I was. I was still
Could
a Vella.
there have been something else?
No, not Vella. We're talking 2014 now.
Yeah, something
We've known
like
each
that.
other.
Yeah. So we, since then, there are families, new jobs, new recruitments, a lot of things.
Yes.
Talking about
A
8
lot,
years back.
We're talking 8 years. 8 years. 2 kids. A few promotions along the way.
Yeah. And your recent one is just 3 weeks, so that's it's a good...
4 weeks, I think, on Monday. So, yeah,
amazing.
He's very new.
So last time we met, we were obviously much closer to each other. Not 2 meters apart, but...
That's right.
Let's do what we normally do when we meet.
Yes, minus the glass of wine.
Minus the glass of wine, sadly.
Yeah.
But as long as we're not missing out our annual sort of planning of the year and how is this year going to be.
Exactly.
Then we stick to the route.
Exactly.
So recruitment.
Yes.
And betting connections.
Yes. I mean, Betting Connections obviously is a leading iGaming recruitment specialist. So we pride ourselves to be one of the largest.
I would say, yes.
I think we're well over 25 consultants in Betting Connections alone, because obviously, as you know, we've got our sister company, Spot On Connections, as well. Mm-hmm. So we've actually, in 2020, our growth spurt, we actually doubled our headcount in 2020, which was actually really fantastic. And
I mean, that's amazing. Some of the gaming companies have also done a lot of recruitments last year as well. Some of them not that much, but a lot of things are obviously happening in the industry. And so the coming year, what I am, I come from operators back. I speak to a lot of operators on a daily basis, suppliers as well. But they are all giving me, obviously, their own side of their story, their own experiences. Yeah. So having you here giving us a little bit of the combined, intel a little bit on the industry and in terms of what are the changes and specifically expectations, in terms of what do candidates want in the future? Yeah. What do companies want? Are these wants, can they be matched? Yeah.
I mean, obviously, 2020 was a testing year for everyone. I can speak, obviously, from the perspective of Betting Connections. I can speak from the perspective of candidates and clients, obviously, from what we hear, and what we've heard in the last year. 2020 was a very sort of... it was a testing year in that we had to adapt. There was a lot of resilience that needed to come into play. For us at Betting Connections, we obviously there was a point where obviously things were slowing down from the perspective of clients sort of had to regroup and stop and think kind of and re-strategize how they're going to sort of play the next sort of year out. So there was a time where there was a lot of sort of maybe the unknown, which obviously gave us time to focus on training the people that we had in on how to obviously do what we do remotely. The positive thing about us is that I already had 2 years experience working remotely from the UK. We already had one of our senior consultants working in England as well. So working remotely wasn't entirely new, especially to the more senior people within the business. But obviously for recruiters that came in, they had to relearn sort of how to do things, or actually learn from the beginning how to recruit and consult to the best quality as possible. Yeah. From a candidate perspective, obviously candidates in Malta, maybe specifically, but obviously in Malta, we tend to have a lot of candidates who kind of froze in terms of their search because they wanted to see what was happening sort of with the pandemic, of course. Yeah. So anyone that perhaps was actively looking would have stopped in their tracks to just sort of regroup, and perhaps obviously there was the fear element, of course, of the unknown. From the perspective of candidates, our candidates who were not in Malta, obviously, they had to stop perhaps against their own will because they perhaps couldn't travel and relocate if the positions were in Malta or wherever the positions were. From the client side,
let's go back a little bit to where the clients or where the candidates are. But I think that what I should actually be telling the audience out there is if there is anyone that has questions, write it in the chat, in the meeting chat, so I can bring them up directly with Krysta.
Yeah.
Very good. Where the clients are. Should we start there?
Yeah. Clients, candidates, or
candidates,
candidates,
okay,
just to make sure.
Yes. So candidates are normally relocated to Malta if they are not in Malta historically.
I mean, yes. I mean, there's a huge client base is in Malta. We do have many clients that are sort of in the rest of Europe, but predominantly yes, Malta. So candidates, I would say, we do relocate many candidates to Malta. So that was sort of we're very, very good at bringing new talent and a fresh kind of perspective to the industry.
Yeah, how many did you actually bring down for us? I mean, only us, and then the really big ones.
Oh my goodness! I mean,
so let's say that's before 2020. So in a year before that, and then 2020. From an operator point of view, I mean, we sort of halted it quite a bit, and then we did rush relocations.
Yes.
What about 2020?
2020.
Sorry, 2021. Yeah.
I mean, what we're seeing with clients is that obviously the clients are at the moment more. Let's just say they're looking for speed to hire, of course, because obviously, naturally, because there is the opportunity to work remotely or perhaps to do training remotely, then there is this element of being able to find candidates that can start, that aren't in Malta, but can perhaps start remotely. So there is that side. There is obviously then the side where clients aren't looking to have people start remotely, of course. So that means we need to tap into our local talent. That is where sort of we need to kind of go back to our roots into when we started in 2010 and, tap into our existing network, focus on our referral base, which is extremely strong. So we're very, very lucky in that perspective because we already had a very strong referral program. Focus a lot on advertising locally to get, obviously, people over here. I mean, candidates that are abroad and clients wanting to bring them down, if there wasn't a necessarily sort of desperate need to have them here now, then they would naturally wait for the right person, depending obviously on the role. If it's a sort of entry level, then of course that it needs to be a lot faster. Yeah. But for the mid-level, senior level sort of roles, then they would either say that they would wait and do training virtually and then get them down when they can,
So what we're saying is basically, when time is ripe, we will want to have people at least close by so that we can meet, not necessarily all the time in the office, but at least sort of close to each other.
The hybrid approach of working sort of remotely and working from an office is something that has happened, was already happening pre-COVID anyway. There was this element of flexibility. It's kind of been sort of on the agenda. It's almost like this pandemic was sort of an excuse to bring it here. So, at the end of the day, the best teacher is adversity. So in a sense, we're kind of learning and because the gaming industry is so fast changing and so sort of ever moving. Something like this just gives us an extra excuse to kind of bring flexibility in, which was happening anyway, So I think now we're just going to embrace it that little bit more. And
it's accelerated.
Yes, and let's say that candidates are sort of expecting it at the moment. Candidates are it's almost become part of the way of working. So clients that perhaps aren't very open to a flexible mindset might lose candidates from there, because obviously you can't put a price on flexibility.
No.
And it also gives clients that opportunity to find talent that is not in the location that they're looking for.
Exactly.
You know, there are so many times where we speak to fantastic candidates who just can't move to Malta for whatever reason. It could be that they have a mortgage that they can't, they can't leave it there. It could be that they have a very sick family member that they need to take care of.
Or vice versa, leaving Malta
yes,
and
of course.
still staying on.
So this really does open doors. It opens doors to both candidates and clients.
So some of the gaming operators or representatives, the gaming companies, are really adapting to this now. Remote first, 100%. There is an office where people can go and meet, but there are no such expectations.
Yeah.
And then there are some of them, maybe bigger motors, that stick to more office-based.
Yeah.
And then there is the middle segment. Obviously, I would say from my members, we're talking about hybrid 99%.
Okay.
If not more than hybrid, like a very sort of little expectations in the actual office coming.
Yeah.
Moving down like a few years, Pierre has asked this so many times as well, but will the office be entirely redundant? What's your gut feeling,
To be honest with you, I would be very surprised if the office is redundant. In my opinion, anyway. And even when speaking with with my clients or my contacts, part of the beauty of the gaming industry is the social impact that it holds. So. Whereas perhaps in the beginning of this, all, when this happened back in March 2020, sort of people were naturally excited about the opportunity to work from home. People are actually now excited at the opportunity of going back to the office, because they miss the social capital that the companies offer. And what we tend to forget is that some companies, the social impact and the actual environment is one of their main USPs. It is one of the reasons people will choose X operator or X company over the other.
Exactly.
So I would be very surprised if the office space is redundant. I would just say it's more of not more than an option. It's more sort of the flexibility is given to the employee, and what that gives is then an incentive to be productive, to be more productive and find ways of being more productive, because at the end of the day, what people are finding is that working remotely is very productive,
because you're given the responsibility
and the trust, which is what people are looking for. Exactly. But then when you go to the office, naturally there is the added distraction of other people, but then that motivates you to work harder, and
so talking about the office then, Krysta, I mean, all gaming companies have good perks. I mean, we can't be shy with that, and more often than not, the perks are quite similar. There's breakfasts, there are Friday beers, and obviously the old good health insurance and gym cards and stuff like this. Will the benefit package change? Have you seen any trends in this?
What I suppose more than at the moment, I think the flexibility has been the main sort of more than perk. It's sort of something that
given
is at the moment. It isn't really a perk because it's something that has to happen due to obviously the obvious. When everything gets back to normal, then obviously will it go back to normal, or will it be offered anyway, and then that will be considered a perk. I think more than just the flexibility, people are just going to expect a little bit more trust, a little bit more of a choice in how they work, so for example, knowing that you don't have to go into the office every single day of the year. If you want to go and spend your midsummer in Sweden, you know, you can,
I
and
can.
you can, and you can, and you can work at the same time. So you then in a sense get more annual leave in that, you know, time at the end of the day is what people want, and flexibility. Of course, the salaries I wouldn't say are going to increase, but from a benefit package, I think there's going to be more of an online presence of benefits, be it online from a sporting perspective, a gym perspective, or yoga. It could be also, you know, the mental coaching and mental training as well.
Coaching, very good.
You know, which in this day and age, because it's fully it's, you know, we're surrounded by so much more technology now that we're kind of on a screen all the time.
Exactly.
You know, I believe that there is that need for the online coaching perspective as well.
I believe you. That's I'm focusing very much in that area, and I can see that for online, not only gaming, but it should get quite a lot of momentum in terms of productivity, loneliness, preventing mental illness rather than taking care of it afterwards.
Exactly, and teaching employees how to be the most productive they can be, maximize what they do, and optimize their results. You know, because at the end of the day, these are all sort of correlated together. You know,
and listen to this: you speak about yourself only with your coach for like 1.5 hours. When do you ever do that in a socially competent manner?
That's right.
Okay, so let's wrap 2021 up then, Krysta.
It's only just started.
Exactly. What do we see?
It's going to be busy, without sounding too cliche. It's going to be busy. Based on the first 8 weeks of betting connections, you know, it's been an insane ride. People, you know, I really do feel that that clients and candidates have kind of started this year with this very much new year, new me kind of thing, in the sense of wanting to, you know, embrace the adversity of what the pandemic has. The initial shock is over, in a sense.
Exactly.
You know, so people are just they're understanding now how to perhaps deal with
and adapt.
Deal with and adapt in situations like this.
Work-wise, but also socially, I would say.
Oh, definitely. I think in Malta, you know, especially with being a social island, the adaptability goes sort of all round.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Okay. All right. We've been talking.
Yes.
People are listening.
Yes.
Krysta, let's leave people to their Fridays. Yes. Thank you so much for coming.
Happy Friday. Thank you very much, Heidi. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
Very good.
Thank you.
Ciao.